Alright guys, before we get into the podcast, let's get through the rigmarole first. Remember guys, this podcast posts each and every single Wednesday. The first segment of the show, we go through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The second segment of the show, we're going to be going through the state of the AFC playoffs. The third segment of the show, we're going to preview game day. And the fourth and final segment of the show, we're going to go through the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A where we answer your questions. This first news story, Dolphins to drop Ja'Wuan James. Jesse Davis has been doing a decent job at right tackle, and that could alter Ja'Wuan James' future with the Dolphins. By the way, this article is from Pro Football Rumors. Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald says if there's no discernible difference between the two players, their salaries could be the tiebreaker. James, a 2014 first-round pick, is due $9.3 million through the fifth-year option, but the Dolphins can bail on that obligation before the start of the 2018 league year. It's possible that James' injury could be a season ender. It is, so he may have already played his final game for Miami. No way. See, this is the stupid... first of all, the logic of that is ridiculous. Just because Jesse Davis may have a couple of good games... First of all, we'll see because there's 6 more games to be played. But Ja'Wuan James for the last 2 years has put, in my opinion, 2 Pro Bowl caliber years back to back. If he didn't get off to such a slow start in 2016, he was possibly the best pass blocking right tackle in the NFL. And if he stayed healthy this year, I would see no reason why he wouldn't make the Pro Bowl, to be honest. I mean, yeah, he's not the greatest run blocker in the world. He's not the most physical player in the world, but he gets the job done in a passing-heavy league, which, again, in my opinion, Pro Bowl caliber tackle. And he's been consistent over the last 2 years. We know what we have in Ja'Wuan James. I think he's going to have Pro Bowls ahead of him. I think he's going to maybe even have All Pros ahead of him. He's young. I think he's, 25 years old. So to have a right tackle of that caliber for the next 10 years, if he can stay consistent, which I think he can, because he's gotten better each and every single year he's been in the NFL. If it wasn't for injuries, he would be even better. To let that go would be a big mistake, just because first of all, Jesse Davis is not anywhere near the talent that Ja'Wuan James is right now. And Jesse Davis has been, I'm not going to say one of the reasons why, well, he's definitely been one of the reasons why we've been penalized so much. I was going to say a plague in terms of how many penalties, he's accounted for. But he's been an inconsistent player all season at guard. He's been pretty good at tackle. He hasn't been anything special. So we'll see. But and when I look at evaluating both players, I know what I'm getting in Ja'Wuan James because I've seen his career over the last, 5 years he's been here. And I know what he's going to be down the line. I don't know what the heck Jesse Davis is going to be. So that would just be stupid. All right, you know how hard it is? And, you guys, another point I'll make before we move on to the next news story. People hate drafting offensive linemen in the first round. Well, to the, not to the hardcore fan, maybe to the more casual football fan, not Dolphins fan, but just, or in general, anything that has to do with football, the line of scrimmage is the most important position, in my opinion, when you're building a football team in the NFL. I don't even think it's close. When you look at some of the best teams in the league, they all have great lines, whether it's the offensive line or the defensive line. Especially if you want to be a good team in December and November, you have to have a really good line of scrimmage. And fans hate taking offensive linemen in the first round. Well, if you don't want to take another tackle in the next 3 years in the first round, then you want to sign Ja'Wuan James and lock him up for the long term. Okay, so that's another good enough reason for, I guess, fans to want that to happen. All right, Dolphins. So this is detailing how the Dolphins organization views Rishard Matthews. Dolphins lamenting Matthews' exit. This is the next news story, and this comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have invested heavily at the wide receiver position in recent years, selecting Jarvis Landry in the 2014 second round and Devontae Parker in the 2015 first before authorizing a high-end contract to re-sign Kenny Stills. But at least some within the organization are missing a former low-level investment, with Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald reporting on Twitter, a common thing among the Dolphins is they wish they retained Rishard Matthews, an undrafted free agent in 2016. Now an integral component on the Titans, Matthews did not require much to sign, as players like Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and Travis Benjamin required at least $6 million per year to sign in 2016, with Jones costing the Lions around $8 million annually. Matthews signed a 3-year, $15 million deal in Tennessee, still signed for $8 million. AAV in 2017. A 2012 7th round pick. I was about to say that can't be right. He wasn't undrafted. Matthews easily established a new career high with 945 receiving yards last season, is now on pace to top that this year, exiting Week 11 with 626 yards. He averaged more than 15 yards per reception in his final year with Miami, is sitting on a 15.3 through 10 in 2017. So he's averaging 15 again this year through 10 games with Tennessee. No Dolphin has 500 air yards this season. Still has 408 through 9 games with Parker at 378. Jarvis has more than both of them, I think. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this is a very interesting story. If you guys, I'm sure everybody remembers Rashard Matthews. Drafted with Tannehill, which the 2012 draft, if you look back on it, was pretty phenomenal. A lot of really, really good picks in that draft. That most of them are gone now. When you talk about OV, Rashard Matthews, Lamar Miller, all of those guys were in that draft. Tannehill is, I think, one of the other ones left. So yeah, that was an interesting draft. But Rashard Matthews had great chemistry with Tannehill his entire career here. He caught big catches against the Patriots. When you talk about some of those games that we won when we went on that winning streak at home against them for many years, he was a big part of those wins. He was a very crafty, great route runner, big-bodied, even a red zone threat receiver, and he's been the same thing for Marcus Mariota. He's been a veteran receiver who knows how to get open in the NFL, and he's gotten better with age because of that. And he's a really, really good possession receiver who, if left one-on-one in like a zero-man situation, can burn any given player at any given time. He's got that Adam Thielen route running ability, and that allows him to get separation on DBs. So it was a mistake in a way, I guess, because he did go for so cheap. But we let a lot of people go that year. I think Lamar Miller was a good choice to let go. I think Olivier would have been amazing if we could have retained him, and same thing with Rashard. And I guess as this report details, some people within the building feel the same way. All right, so let's keep going. This next news story, it's not really. I don't know. It's an interesting news story. I guess we'll go through it. Brent Grimes left hole in Dolphins secondary. The Dolphins season has taken a dive in recent weeks after starting the year 4-2. The team has lost control of the final AFC wildcard spot, losing their past 3 games by combined 67 points, thanks to blowouts defeats at the hands of the Ravens and Panthers. However, while their reliance on Jay Cutler and midseason trade of JJ haven't helped, Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald says that the secondary has been one of the major reasons why the Dolphins are not in position to be playoff contenders, particularly in regards to the loss of Brent Grimes when the franchise opted to cut him before the 2016 season. Beasley explains that the front office decided to move on from the veteran cornerback because of his age, and his performance in 2015, and even his wife's antics. But in hindsight, the team misses. That is such bull. Okay, we're still getting into this after this. Grimes' steady contributions, the 34-year-old corner will face his former team for the first time. Okay, so this was an article before the game. Since they let him walk it Sunday since his release, the Dolphins have failed to rectify the position with the likes of Byron Maxwell, Tony Lip. Tony Lippitt tore his ACL. If not, he would be our starting corner. Had a tremendous year in 2016. One of the bigger reasons we made the playoffs with 4 picks. Xavier Howard and Cordrea Tankersley. While Howard and Tankersley are still young, both aren't guys you can lean on during a playoff run. In comparison, Grimes has played more like a middle-of-the-pack corner this season, grading out as the 60th best corner in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. Still, in Beasley's opinion, the way the team has handled their defensive back situation has been a dud all around over the past years. That's such trash. It's not even funny. Cordrea is having a good year. He's a rookie corner, and especially how he started off the year. And even, in the Buccaneers game, I thought he had a pretty good game as well. He's had moments where he has, he's a rookie. It happens. But anyway, Cordrea is going to be very good, I think. Tony, I still think, can be very good. Coming off of a 4-pick year, obviously couldn't come back, but he was one of the brighter spots of a defense that was one of the franchise's worst, statistically the worst in franchise history. So there is promise in the defensive secondary. Xavier is still young. Hopefully he can rebound at some point in his career. We'll see, but the Brent Grimes situation, I think Brent Grimes is what when he was with us. First of all, he's underplaying how bad of a 2015 Brent Grimes had. Brent Grimes had a terrible season with us. One of the reasons we got swept by the Bills that year was because of him, because Sammy Watkins owned him in both games, especially at Buffalo. I mean, it was like a clinic. And same thing with Brandon Marshall with the Jets. That's one of the bigger reasons we got swept. Only won one AFC East game that year because Brent Grimes could not handle any kind of taller receiver in our division with speed, especially with speed to power. He struggled mightily in 2015. And okay, fine. He's the 60th best corner. Who cares? We don't miss him, and it's not like, oh, Brent Grimes has left this huge void. Oh, yeah, no, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's a opportunistic corner at this point in his career who gets turnovers. Good from him. He's not you cannot leave him on an island anymore. He's like an extremely poor man's Marcus Peters. All right, let's move on from that. That article just made me upset. I don't even know if I wanted to read it because it doesn't make any sense to me, at least to me. I mean, we thank God we moved on and try to build for the future and at the cornerback position. And again, hopefully when Tony comes back, he continues to be what we think he can be. All right, let's move on to the next news story. Let's see here. Next news story: Jarvis Landry eyeing $13 million. The Dolphins' pass-catching corps may look quite different next season with while Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, notes the team will have money to re-sign Jarvis Landry. The Dolphins, are of the belief they can replace the slot receiver with a wait a minute. Hang on, let me back up here. While Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald notes the team will have money to re-sign Jarvis Landry, the Dolphins are of the belief they can replace the slot receiver with a day 2 draft pick. Oh my God. Jarvis Landry is averaging 7.7 yards per reception, and that might not be worth a $16 million franchise tag for the team. Jackson reports Landry is expected to want a contract in the range of 5 years and $65 million, which would make him by far the NFL's highest paid slot receiver. Jackson writes, no decision has been made on this front yet, and how the season finishes will influence the franchise's thinking on this front. There's more. Let me read. Before we go on, I think this is important. Miami wants Ndamukong Suh back for what will be his age 31 season, but will likely approach the Pro Bowl defensive tackle about a restructure. Jackson notes the Dolphins could create $12 million in cap space in 2018 with a base salary to re-sign bonus conversations, thus putting more money on future caps and lower Suh's 18 cap hit from $26 million to around $14 million. All right, that's not the end of the article. It goes on to talk about Julius Thomas as well. However, Jackson notes Julius Thomas probably won't be back next season. The tight end has had another season on his Jaguar constructed and Dolphins reconstructed deal, but Miami can save $6.6 million in cap space. The athletic pass catcher will turn 30 in June and is on pace to play more than he did in either Jaguar season, having suited up for all 9 Dolphins games thus far, but he has not been the same since leaving Denver. Okay, this is a lot to take in. First of all, the fact that if this is true, this is all speculative, I guess, because who knows if his sources are whoever they are in the organization. They're most likely not Adam Gase. So I honestly don't. I mean, unless Mike Tannenbaum thinks that, but if he thinks he can just replace Jarvis Landry with a second round pick just like that, like that's how easy it is, then he's an idiot. Okay, first of all, people will cut off their big toe to have somebody like Jarvis Landry. Again, he's not just a slot receiver at all. He's a weapon the way you just watch him dominate Sundays. I mean, the man is probably the best run after the catch receiver in the NFL besides his buddy Odell Beckham. So, this is a guy who is supremely talented, that can change the momentum of a game at any point in time, that has the capability of taking one to the house at any moment in time on the football field. And anytime you have a player that is capable of such things, it would be wise to keep said player. You're not going to find somebody who's going to break the catch record in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. You're just not going to do that. That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If they can be that naive and think, oh, we can just replace somebody with a second round pick, how about they look at how many people they've drafted in the second to third round that are not even on the team anymore? So how about they prove that they can select somebody worthy enough for a second and third round pick before they come out here and can be so bold as to say, or somebody in that organization to say, whoever the anonymous source is, that they say, oh yeah, we can just find one in the second round. Good luck with that. And the whole Sue situation, his deal needs to be reconstructed regardless. If he doesn't want that to happen, I think it's probably the best decision. I love Sue, but there's a lot of things we need to get right if we want to correct some of the mistakes on this football team. And the reason why Jarvis Landry is having a career low 7.7 yards per reception is because of the quarterback position, not because of him. Trust me. Some of those balls, and we'll get into that later. And I've talked about it before, but his run after the catch opportunities have been way down because, first of all, Cutler hasn't been throwing anybody in stride, and he hasn't been accurate. He's been thrown off his back foot a lot this season. The whole Julius Thomas situation, he needs to get off our team. He has been utterly disappointing, and I think hindering us as an offense in some situations because of his ability. He's not as athletic as he used to be. He clearly doesn't have vertical speed that he used to have in terms of running seam routes. I mean, it's clearly not there anymore. His run after the catch ability is far, far less than it ever was. Marquise Gray is so much more athletic than he is. It's almost comical at this point. All right, next news story. Cutler in concussion protocol. Dolphins quarterback Jay Cutler is officially in the NFL's concussion protocol, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. The Dolphins are 4-6 and mired in a 4-game losing streak, so their showdown with the New England Patriots could be a make or break game for their slim playoff hopes. Matt Moore will assume the starting role should Cutler not be fit for the game. Okay, so this is interesting. Obviously, if you didn't know, Adam Gase said that Jay Cutler will be the starter if he clears concussion protocol, but as we're going into this next news story, Dolphins quarterback Matt Moore to take first-team snaps in practice today. Matt Moore will be under center when the Dolphins practice today. Starting quarterback Jay Cutler remains in concussion protocol, according to Adam Gase. It remains unknown when Cutler might return to practice or whether he'll be able to play at New England on Sunday. Gase said Monday Cutler would remain the starter if he's healthy. Gase said there will become a point this week where he has to make a decision on the starting quarterback. He said, quote, "I'm sure there will be a point I make a decision," end quote. Gase said, okay, then he goes on to say, quote, "I don't really know what the timetable is right now. I'm just kind of taking it day by day right now." Cutler didn't play in the second half of last week's 30-20 loss to Tampa Bay after being evaluated for concussion. At halftime, Cutler threw three first half interceptions in the game, 3 picks in one quarter. Moore, the starter for the 40-0 loss at Baltimore when Cutler was sidelined with a rib injury, threw for 282 yards in the second half against Tampa Bay, including a 61-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Kenny Stills. Gase said it could be beneficial to Moore to get some reps with the first team this week, whether or not he's the starter against the Patriots. When asked whether he'd feel comfortable starting Cutler if he didn't practice this week, Gase said Gase did not provide a solid answer. He said, quote, "We'll see," he said. Quote, "Right now I can't do anything about where he's at in protocol. It just is what it is," which is a very vague answer to that question. So we're going to get into more of this anyway, because after this segment, because we have one more news story. After that, we're just going to end it with who I think should start, and we're going to go through it in detail. So let's move on to the next news story. A lot of Dolphins fans should be happy about this, because I'm happy about this. This should have happened last week, if we're being honest. Dolphins promote Neville Hewitt to fortify depleted linebacker unit. The Miami Dolphins promoted Neville Hewitt from their 53-man squad on Wednesday, placing the veteran linebacker on the 53-man roster heading into Sunday's road game against the New England Patriots. Hewitt, who joined the Dolphins as an undrafted free agent in 2015, spent the past 6 weeks on Miami's practice squad after being waived at the conclusion of training camp because of a shoulder injury that forced him to miss all of preseason. Hewitt has played in 32 NFL games, starting 7 of them for the Dolphins. Rehabbed on his own in South Florida, and the Dolphins eventually brought him back. Injuries to Mike Hall, Chase Allen, and Stephon Anthony, who suffered a knee injury in Sunday's loss to the Buccaneers, motivated Miami to promote Hewitt. Ray Maluga's release last weekend following his arrest in a Miami nightclub created a roster spot and a need for Miami to fortify the linebacker unit. Allen, an undrafted rookie from Southern Illinois, started last Sunday's game, but he didn't contribute a single tackle. He shared the non-nickel workload with Anthony, a former Saint first-round pick whom the Dolphins traded for earlier this season before he got injured. Hewitt who has primarily worked as an outside linebacker during his time in Miami, has 89 tackles, 57 solo, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 1 fumble recovery in his NFL career. He'll likely compete in practice this week to determine who becomes the third linebacker of Miami's base defense, and expect him to contribute on special teams. First of all, whether he was healthy or not, at any point I cannot speak to. Maybe that's why it took so long for him to get on the 53-man roster. But first of all, in his entire career here in Miami, he's been a tremendous special teams player, which we've been pretty good on special teams if you don't count some of the penalties we've committed. But on kick coverage, we've been pretty decent. Neville would make us a better kick coverage team. Not only that, but I think he was having a tremendous offseason. His training camp was one of the best, if not the best, out of the entire linebacker unit. He was getting picks in the red zone drills, left and right. He was flying around making tackles. I was very excited to see what he could do. Then obviously he hurt himself before preseason could start, and then we haven't heard from him since. I'm very excited for him to get another opportunity because I think he is a very talented player out of Marshall, explosive athlete, great in coverage, and I think he was our best nickel linebacker by far, and I think we've sorely missed him because of that, because we really haven't had a good nickel linebacker all season long, and that's really hurt some of our packages. So I think he's just going to add another a good piece of the defense depending on how Matt Burke uses him. We'll see, but I'm very excited about him coming back. Okay, so this is the last news story. Dolphins far more enjoyable with Matt Moore than Jay Cutler. The Miami Dolphins will turn back to Jay Cutler when he is cleared of his concussion, but the team is so much more enjoyable with Matt Moore at quarterback. Nothing changed on Sunday when Jay Cutler did not return to the field in the second half. The offensive line was the same. The receivers and tight ends were the same as well. Only Matt Moore was different. Cutler was not having one of his FedEx Player of the Week games. Not for Miami anyways. 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown was enough to keep the Buccaneers in the lead, and Miami still in striking distance. Then Matt Moore happened. Yes, well, we all remember the Matt Moore experiment, a come from behind win against the Jets when Cutler breaks a few ribs, and a follow-up start against the Ravens that gave the team another blowout shutout loss. Cutler came back a week later, and everything was supposed to be right again, but it wasn't, was it? Matt Moore is not consistent enough to be a full-time starter, but there is something about the offense when he's in the game, a change of speed on the field. It is as if the Dolphins players play faster. He plays faster than Cutler. We'll all see this. We'll all see this. That's weird. Cutler drops back to pass, moves a step or two, and off his back foot, tosses a 7-yard pass, line up and repeat. Cutler has no emotion, of course. We all knew this. He has no passion, of course. We all knew this. He also doesn't have the arm strength that we expected. With Cutler, Miami takes very few shots downfield. All right, let me end it there, because it just goes on to talk about how Matt Moore is more passionate and all that other stuff. All right, so who should start on Sunday? Who should be the Dolphins starter for the rest of the year, quite frankly? I don't know why, but after I did the recap Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, a lot of people were upset at me I don't remember what I said. You guys would have to remind me, but I have the worst short-term memory in the world, so you guys would have to let me know. I cannot remember, but I don't remember saying anything in terms of excuses for quarterback Jay Cutler. When you look at the team overall, it's very, and I hate to say this because it breaks my heart, because I had a lot of high hopes for this team, but it's very, very slim that we make the playoffs. If we want this team to be at least half enjoyable to watch and exciting, and have this offense finally be explosive, which it should have been all season long, Matt Moore should be the starter. the thing that's different between Matt Moore and Jay Cutler. Matt Moore is a better pocket passer than Jay Cutler. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. The thing that Jay Cutler has over Matt Moore, and it's really only one thing, is his ability to make plays with his legs within the pocket and how he navigates it. Here's why Matt Moore needs to be the starter for the rest of the year, and in my opinion, he should be. I think he is a better fit for this offense, and I think right now, in this point in his career, he is a better quarterback just in general. What he proved in the Buccaneers game is the Buccaneers were throwing a lot of stuff at him, throwing a lot of blitzes at him. Obviously, the lack of first-team reps in the entire season, and especially on that particular week, his ability to read the blitz, okay, throw with great anticipation on third and longs, on third and 11s, which has been an utter, basically a given for any defense who gets us into that. Matt Moore actually keeps his eyes downfield. The blitz does not faze him. He shows great poise in the pocket, throws with great anticipation before the receiver's even open. And he really showed that on Sunday. And I think he clearly needs to be the starter. You know, I think he played one half of football with almost 300 yards passing. And obviously missed one crucial pass. And I mean, obviously you can't blame him. He was getting warmed up, just comes off the bench, and barely misses Kenny Stills on a double move, but a beautiful pass to Kenny with that 60-yard touchdown on a beautiful deep crossing route. If our defense could find a way to get off the field, we would have clearly won that game. The Buccaneers couldn't stop us all game long. If it wasn't for penalties, we might have broken the franchise record for yards in that game. We were really clicking on offense, but I think Matt Moore needs to be the starter. I think he's a better pocket passer. Mechanically, he's better. I think he has a better arm at this point than Jay Cutler. You know, we've heard all these things we've heard about Jay Cutler's arm and all this other stuff. He's been one hopping a lot of footballs. He fails, and it's been beyond me to throw a receiver in stride. And Matt Moore obviously is more capable of that in this point. What we'll lose with Matt Moore is just when things start to break down, he might not have the same ability that Jay does to step up into the pocket. Well, not step up into the pocket, but just navigate it. You know, avoid rushers to make a throw. That's the only thing you're really losing when you look at the two. But again, I think Matt Moore is a better choice and a better quarterback, and I think this team is more fun to watch just in general with Matt Moore at the quarterback. And again, from an analytical standpoint, when you really just analyze it, like who's the better player, I think it's clearly Matt Moore. Like I said, mechanically, it's not even close. On third down, he shows way more poise than Jay Cutler. What I mean by that is he keeps his eyes downfield. He doesn't put his eyes down to make a move in the pocket. He keeps his eyes downfield. He finds the open receiver, and he stands in there, takes the hit, and makes a throw. That's what poise is. It's probably the bet. If your quarterback has that, he's gonna be at least half decent in the NFL, but he has a chance to be great. And Matt Moore has that. I'm not saying he'll ever be a great quarterback because I don't think he can be, but he definitely is a good quarterback. So he has that, and Jay Cutler really hasn't shown that all season. I think he has a better arm than Jay Cutler, and I think his deep ball accuracy, it's not even close. I think Matt Moore is one of the more beautiful deep ball throwers in the NFL, just in general. So I think he gives us a better chance to win on Sunday. I think he stretches the field with his arm. I think we're more explosive offense with him under center. And I think the team just in general, and you know, I hate to be one of these people that speculates, the team plays fast, because I think that's a whole bunch of baloney. You can only look at how the game is changed, like from a legitimate standpoint, only based off of things that you can prove, and look at it from an intelligent manner, not be like, Matt Moore, when he comes in there, the team is more inspired. I think the reason when Matt Moore is in there and you guys are like, the team just looks like it plays faster and all this other stuff, the play calling is 100% different with Matt Moore in there than it is with Jay Cutler. We're way more aggressive with Matt Moore. We take way more deep shots with Matt Moore. That's why it looks that way. And of course, he definitely plays with more emotion on the field. I'll give you that. But it's not like the team is just like, Matt Moore's in, we're going to start running faster. No, it's just the plays are different. I think for all of those reasons, Matt Moore should be the quarterback and that's just my opinion. It's not going to happen, but I do think, and I thought that I tried to make that clear in the recap video, and I felt like I did, but I guess I didn't. But I do think Matt Moore should be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season, and I think he proved that against the Buccaneers. Listen, like I said, it breaks my heart to say it, we have a very, very slim chance to make the playoffs. So we might as well make this season as enjoyable as it can get. Are we a better team with Jay Cutler, or are we a better team with Matt Moore? And I know Adam Gase has this thing where when he makes promises, he usually doesn't break them. But that obviously contradicts his biggest mantra to his team, is if you're the better player, you will play. And he's contradicting that by, having this promise that he obviously kept to Jay Cutler, that he would be the starting quarterback if he did come out of retirement. And I think he needs to look beyond that and just play the best player. And I think that is clearly Matt Moore. And he's losing a lot of respect from the fans because Jay Cutler is still the quarterback. And it's unfortunate because I think Adam, in terms of play design, some of the plays that he drew up for Sunday's game were beautiful. And he did a tremendous job coaching the team. It's just, I think a lot of people are losing respect now that, he traded J.J., who's one of the, fan favorite player. And now that he won't, and we know who the better player is for this particular team, and he won't bench him because of the relationship he has with Jay Cutler. I think he's losing a lot of respect from fans because of that. And it's unfortunate because Adam Gase is a tremendous coach. He's a great coach, very talented man, and he just needs to do what's right. And I hope, whether it's by coincidence or not, I think Matt Moore gives us a great chance to beat New England. He's played, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over and pass, when you look at the game in 2011 when he played the Patriots, when we were actually leading at halftime, he had a tremendous half in that first half. Everything really just, Brady was Brady, and obviously came back in that game. But, he's played well in Gillette Stadium. He's been a very good road quarterback ever since he's been a Dolphin. So, his worst road game in his probably his career really was against the Ravens. But as long as he doesn't turn the ball over and hurt the team, he could be. He's always going to be a very solid quarterback and a very effective one for that matter. But he needs to cut down on the turnovers, especially when we're going up against New England. If we have a high turnover differential in this game where we're turning the ball over at a high clip, obviously we're going to get destroyed. But if he can take care of the ball, we'll be okay. But I think obviously Matt Moore is the better option there. And I think play calling is it's almost ridiculous how much different it is with him. The Jay Cutler. Adam is clearly more willing to take more deep shots. And the difference between, he said it before, Matt Moore doesn't have any preferred plays like Jay Cutler does. Like, there are certain plays that Jay Cutler doesn't like to run, and Adam doesn't call certain plays. So he calls the game different when Jay Cutler is in. When Matt is in, he just looks at what the defense is trying to do to our offense, and he calls the best plays he thinks can combat that, as opposed to calling plays that Jay Cutler might be more comfortable with, if that makes any sense at all. So I think that's why the play calling is much better with Matt Moore in, because Adam Gase has more freedom. So Jay Cutler is causing a lot, not only on the field, he's causing us issues, but off the field as well in terms of a game plan perspective. So I think Matt Moore, even for that reason, needs to be the starter. There's a lot of reasons Matt Moore needs to be the starter. And I think it's pretty clear through how many other games we've played that he's the better player. Anyway, let's move on. I don't think it's even an arguable offense at this point, because it's like, who wants this at this point? I don't know who would want Jay Cutler to start at this point. But I thought, again, I don't know why you guys freaked out about that. I honestly don't know, because I felt like I was trying to say that. I guess I didn't clearly say it. I can't remember. But anyway, I'm not trying. I think Matt Moore should be the starter, without a doubt. All right, we're about a half an hour in. So we're going to move on. I don't think we're going to do we'll quickly run down through the playoffs really quick before we get into previewing the game. And usually we do a separate video when we preview the game, but this week obviously is Thanksgiving week, so I'm not going to have enough time. And I didn't have enough time to do the fan Q&A last week, so I was just planning to do it all in one video this week. And a very busy news day as well, so which is good, because I think that makes for the best podcast is when we get a lot of news in. But so when you look at the AFC race, you've got a bunch of 4-6 teams when you talk about Cincinnati, New York, the Jets is what I mean, the Chargers, all of those teams, the Raiders. Then you have the Ravens, who are 5-5. And then you have the Bills that are 5-5, but I think you can pretty much take them out. I think Sean McDermott was an idiot. He did a tremendous disservice to his football team by starting Nathan Peterman. He literally may have lost every kind of any kind of respect he had already might have been thrown out the window in his locker room. Not only that, but he might have lost the fans as well. So I don't know. Buffalo is in a really bad spot right now, but even though the record doesn't reflect that. So I think really what it comes down to, the teams that, in my opinion, have the best shot at the wild card round right now are the Ravens. So this is the 6th seed is what I'm talking about. The Ravens and the Chargers. I think those two teams have the best shot at it at this point in time. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are lucky that they won in Denver, to say the least. I don't think that team, especially through December, after the month of December, will have a winning record, because I think their offensive line is atrocious, and I don't think that Andy Dalton's having a great year either. He's turning the ball over a lot. So I don't think they're making it. So they're out of it. So our competition really is going to be the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Ravens. And those three teams. The good thing is if it comes down to us and the Chargers and somehow we pull out a few wins here and there, we have the tiebreaker with them. Not only that, but I think all three teams, when you talk about their deficiencies, you talk about the Ravens, their defense is really good. Their offense is terrible. And they beat up on a team that was pretty bad. Obviously, their starting quarterback wasn't in. So if they have a pretty easy schedule, I'm not going to lie, down the road. But if they somehow, and they've lost to some bad teams this year, if they somehow lose some of those games, I think obviously they have the easiest road. What I'm saying is they have the easiest road there, but if they somehow butcher it, then we can sneak in there. The Chargers are on a winning streak right now. They're 4-2 since their 0-4 start. They're on a little roll right now. They have Phillip Rivers, and they have a way better offense and defense. They're more of a complete football team than the Ravens. So unless the Ravens' defense can carry them into the playoffs, I don't see them making it. Their defense very well could. They have 3 shutouts this season, so it's not like it's impossible. But the Chargers, they have the better. I think they have the best shot out of the two when you talk about the Ravens and the Chargers. Especially since their division is utter trash right now. And just in shambles at this point. But if we have any chance of making it, I think you could make the playoffs at 9-7 or 8-8 this season. I think the AFC is a shadow of itself from this year to last year. The NFC is clearly the better conference so far this season when you talk about the quality of teams. But again, I think it's going to come down to those two for that wild card round. If we can somehow sneak into that mix, that would be great. I think we can do that if we beat New England one time and we don't lose to Denver. If we can somehow beat New England once and not lose to Denver, I think we can do it. But that's obviously asking a lot. But at the same time, I think we're very much capable of doing it if Matt Moore is our starting quarterback, especially in Denver and Kansas City. Like I said, Matt has always been a good road quarterback. I don't know why, but his numbers are pretty decent on the road. So, and again, we have 2 games against Buffalo, which Matt has always done really well against AFC East opponents in general. So, I think we have a chance. As long as, again, we can beat the Patriots once. If we do that, I think we have a pretty decent chance. And when I say decent chance, a very, very slim chance. Very slim. If Matt Moore was the starter at the beginning of the Buccaneers game, we know who would have won that game. Let's be honest. Okay, and it's frustrating to think about it, but we know we would have won the game. That's all I'm saying. Matt Moore, I would hope Matt Moore doesn't throw 3 interceptions in the first the second quarter. All right, let's move on to we got to still preview the game. I'm going to make this very quick because I think our only chance, I don't think we're playing any kind of defense in this game, if I'm being completely honest. So our only chance of scoring or of winning this football game is to not turn the ball over and to score a lot of points. I think our offense is going to have to. Nobody has really stopped the Patriots offense this season, and I mean that. Even when they got beat by the Chiefs, they still put up 30 points on them. When the Patriots lost to the Panthers, they still put up 30 points on that defense. So nobody has so far this season, nobody has been able to stop them. Seems like their only kryptonite is Wade Phillips, to be honest with you. But hopefully we play them tough on defense, and we're still a division opponent, so we obviously have a good shot to do that. But so if we play them, if we let up, like, let's hopefully we hold them to like 25 points or 27 or 28 points, somewhere in that range, I think is our best shot to beat them. And that's even asking a lot from our offense. But if we can somehow if we can somehow keep them in that range, I think our offense is very much capable, especially how they've performed ever since the Jay Ajayi trade, to do that. Our worst performance was against the Panthers, but even then we actually kind of moved the ball well. It was just self-inflicting wounds in that game and defense that really lost us that game. But our offense has performed at a pretty good clip. We just dropped almost 500 yards of offense on a team basically all in one half. So we're capable of scoring 30-something points on this defense. Here's why. Their secondary is really pretty good. They have Devin McCourty, Pro Bowler, Stephon Gilmore, Pro Bowler, Malcolm Butler, Pro Bowler. The one thing they don't have is they don't. First of all, their linebackers are very slow. Van Noy is not a fast guy. When you talk about their front seven, Trey Flowers, and their rook, I can't remember his name. His name's always escaping me. They don't really have a true pass rusher on this football team. If you try to run at the middle of this defense, you're not going to have a lot of success. But if you run on the edges, you will, because if you have a faster running back, I think he can get to the edge on this defense. So if we could somehow exploit some of the weaknesses of the Patriots defense, which is just speed on their front seven, then I think we can have a successful day, because pass rushing has been an issue for this team, and I think if we can get half-decent protection in this game, which we've gotten against better fronts. I mean, you talk about the Panthers, some of the other teams that we've went against, our protection has been pretty good with Jesse Davis. So if we can get protection, and the Patriots really don't blitz all that often, so if we can get protection against them, and Matt Moore can just read the field and not turn the ball over, then I think we'll be pretty good to go. But I think that's the only chance we have is scoring like 30-something points at Gillette Stadium. So it's going to be difficult to do, but I think the offense is capable of it. Will they do it? Who knows? But I think they're very capable of having 30 points on a front seven that's pretty obviously riddled with injuries. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. They've been, the Patriots have been playing good football. But when you look at the win against the Broncos, that was special teams. They won that game off of special teams in their offense. If that team gets turnovers, and especially they did that against the Raiders too, they got turnovers, whether that be a fumble or a pick, they're going to kill you, because if you give Brady extra possessions, he's going to cash in on them. So if we don't turn the ball over, if we play mistake-free football and score some points, which we're capable of doing, then we'll have a chance at the end. But we'll see. Because the mistake-free football is the key to what I'm saying. Because Matt Moore, we know sometimes he can be a little frisky with the football and throw it to the other team, and that will kill us in this game. All right, let's get to the fan Q&A. I have not answered one question in this fan Q&A, so depending on how many questions there are, I'm doubtful that we get through them all. It's been a very, very loaded podcast. We've obviously talked about a lot today. And it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get through the entire thing. This question comes from John Malone. His name's John Malone. He says, Skaggs, you do a lot for us Dolphins fans. We all thank you so very much. But this is the start of the end. God bless you, Skaggs. That might be the greatest question, or the greatest question I've ever gotten in the fan community. I'm going to read it one more time because it made me so happy. Skaggs, you do a lot for us Dolphins fans. We all thank you so very much, but this is the start of the end. God bless you, Skaggs. I love that. That's really good. All right, the next question is from Liam Moore. He says, why do you think we keep getting so many penalties? Is it the coaching staff's fault or the players? It's the players' fault. There's a lot of younger players on the offensive line. That has something to do with it, and again, it's a very tough question to answer, because some of the calls on us against Tampa Bay were very bad. Like when you talk about the holding that negated the Jarvis Landry situation, that was a bad call. But again, it's different officiating crew every week, so it can't be the refs. It has something to do with us. I really can't answer that question. I don't think anybody really has the answer to that, to be honest with you. But I think it has a lot to do with young players on the offensive line. When you talk about Laramie, who continues to struggle lining up formationally. And I think another issue that it has to do with is practice time. Laramie hasn't practiced a lot this year. He's dealt with some illnesses. Even in this week. He's missing some practice time. So I think that has hurt him in terms of lining up. A lot of illegal formations have been called on Laramie, not lining up on or not covering up the tight end. So that has something to do with it. I think it has, again, to do with reps and repetition. A lot of the players on this offensive line are not starters. So when you talk about in past games like Jesse Davis and Anthony Steen, now that we have Ted Larson back and Mike Pouncey, who's been called for a lot of penalties as well, I thought that it would be cleaned up more, and that was one of the bigger points of emphasis going into the Buccaneers game. Sadly, it wasn't. So it still baffles me. Like, you have veterans like Jermon Bushrod, who's holding, and Mike Pouncey, who's been called for a lot of penalties this season, and then you've got Ted Larson, who's been called for a couple, and then you've got Laramie, who's been called for a couple. It's very weird. It's very weird. But the young players on this offensive line really struggle, and I think it has to do with experience and not a lack of repetition more than it does anything else. Because when you think about Mike Pouncey, he doesn't practice a lot. I mean, the last few weeks we've been giving him more reps, but I think it was just really last week when he practiced an extra day. But I think that had a lot to do with it for Mike this year in terms of how many penalties were called on him was because of the lack of reps that he got. And again, I think for the other players, it's just them being inexperienced, really. And they've also had some issues staying in practice as well. So I think it has it's a little bit of both of those things. And I think for Ted Larson, even though he's a vet, it's been that he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time either. I mean, he really hasn't gotten a lot of reps. I mean, he's been out for God only knows how long. So I don't know what he's been doing on his off time, but it's clearly not, practicing our offense. So that has a lot to do with it as well. So I think it's a mixture of all of those things. Carlos says, do you think the Dolphins would have had more success if they went the route of Colin Kaepernick? And for anyone who continues to say Cap isn't good, he had a touchdown interception ratio of 6-14 last year. Cutler threw 3 interceptions in the first half in one quarter. It sounds more disgusting when you say one and quarter, because it was one quarter. Looking back on the entire year, because I really have a chance to really step back and just look at it, and I'm not in the moment as much anymore because of what has transpired. Now that I can just kind of stand back and look at the entire year and how it went and what went wrong, I think when you talk about the deficiencies that we had on the offensive line, I think for us to have won more games, we would need a mobile quarterback to do that and a playmaker that can make plays with his legs. So when everything breaks down, it's a 3rd and 15 or a 3rd and 11, and there's nobody open. You got a guy coming in free from the edge. You need somebody who can make plays with his legs and pick that first down up, even though there's nothing there. So the ability to create by yourself, I think, is what Colin Kaepernick would have brought to this offense. So yeah, I think he would have been the better choice out of the two. I think him, his personality, people hate him because of his political beliefs, but if you put that aside and really just look at his ability as a football player, I think what he would have been capable of doing coming into this to this team, and how Adam Gase would have really put in some interesting, fun plays to this offense, I think it would have added another wrinkle into the playbook. I think the zone read running schemes that we still run, even with Jay Cutler, obviously would have been a million times more effective. So for all of those reasons, I think Colin Kaepernick would have been the better choice in hindsight. So yeah, I do think you have a point there. All right, T-Zone says, why can't Gase admit he made a mistake on Cutler and move on? The team as a whole has no confidence, no swagger with Cutler in as the starting quarterback, but when Matt Moore gets on the field, he just connects the dots, gives us a bit of that 2016 feel. What do you think? Yeah, I would agree with that. It gives us more of the 2016 feel because we're a lot more explosive like we were in 2016. We're a lot more aggressive like we were in 2016, especially at the tail end of last year. When you go back and look at some of the plays we made to win the game, win some of those games in November and December, they're all big plays. When you think about all the touchdowns against the Jets, those are all deep shots. You think about all the touchdowns against the Cardinals, really, when Tannehill was in, he was throwing the football down the field to Kenny Stills for the early lead and the early touchdown. He was throwing the football downfield in that game. It was the big plays with Jarvis Landry broke the tackle from Tywan Branch, and then he went down the sideline for like an 80-yard gain. And then we think about what really won us the game to set up the game-winning field goal, the deep shot to Kenny Stills. The big play has been 100% eliminated when Jay Cutler has been in there at quarterback. And when Matt Moore is in there, it comes back. So that is one of the bigger differences between the two. And a lot of that has to do with play calling and Adam Gase's willingness to take more deep shots with Matt Moore. You would have to ask him why he's like that. Is it because Jay Cutler doesn't have the arm he used to have, or is it because Matt Moore is just more accurate than Jay Cutler? Who knows? Because we haven't seen Jay Cutler attempt a lot of them, and when he does, he throws them out of bounds. So I think you guys can really read between the lines there and understand why the offense looks different with one end than it does the other. Because again, the play calling is so much different, and it really brings the big play back into the offense when Matt Moore is out there. So I think I lost what the question meant. Do you think when Matt Moore gets on the field, he just connects the dots to give us a bit of that 2016 feel? And again, the key there is the 2016 feel. Yes, because the big play is back when he is in. So that's why it gives us the 2016 feel. I 100% agree with that. The Gamer12345 says, would you be mad if we drafted Mason Rudolph? I know you're not the biggest fan of him, though. I wouldn't be upset about it, depending where he would land, or where we would land him in particular. I'm not a huge fan of Mason's, though. I think he's been very inconsistent throughout his career. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. I just don't think he can be a 16-game starter year in and year out. JJ the Boss 14 says, do you think we should tank? I don't see a point in tanking because we're not in the playoffs. Might as well get a high draft pick as possible. No, you got to compete till the very end. You know, the word tanking is obviously a very disgusting word to fans. But no, you got to compete to the very end, and then just see where the cards fall from there. Leobor says, can you admit that Gase made a mistake? Yes, Gase made a mistake. Yes, I would say Gase made a mistake bringing in Cutler out of retirement. Also, what happened to Cutler before the halftime? Do you think he really had a concussion, or do you think his head got pretty much, two grown men at this, at high speed ran into his head. So yeah, I think it was an actual concussion. Giorgio or Gorgio, I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. He says, hey man, excellent program. I think the season is over, but I will hold out hope for a 6-game win streak. Fins up. Am I crazy? You're not crazy, and it's not necessarily that we have to go on a 6-game win streak, because I do think it is going to take a 9-7, 8-8 team that gets in, unless Baltimore somehow runs the table there, because they can drop one and then still win 10 games, but I don't know. I don't really see them doing that. So I think you can get in by having a 9-7, 8-8 record, and you got to keep your eye on Tennessee. They could fall off as well. Tony Vasquez says, with Ryan Tannehill in this past game, do you think we would win? Also, which players can we do away with after seeing their performances so far this year? That's a very loaded question. We don't have a lot of time. I'll answer the first half of this question. With Ryan Tannehill in the past game, yes, we would have won the game. If Matt Moore started, we would have won the game. We would. I've watched, one of the things I have done is went back and watched a lot of tape on Tannehill because of the big decision that's coming up this upcoming offseason. And everything I've seen, I've watched the good and the bad. Tannehill is 100, and I still believe and when I went back and watched it, nothing is different. He's an athletic playmaker with his legs. This whole false propaganda that he somehow has bad pocket presence is utter trash. He's got great poise in the pocket. He throws with great anticipation, great accuracy down the field, short and middle, and any of that kind of stuff. Tannehill is the total package, in my opinion. And people forget how many plays he just made by himself. Go back and watch that Rams game. A lot of people just watch the last two drives. Watch the entire game and see how many times Tannehill had to roll out and buy time with his legs. Let me see. Let's see here. This next question comes from Jacob. He says the team should cut Sue, Wake, Thomas, Timmons, and several others this offseason. What's the point of keeping Sue when Miami is at least 2 years away? Also, why is there talk about a guard when Miami will have a top 5 draft pick? Think quarterback. The teams consists of a bunch of losers. Excuse me. I would disagree with that. I think this team had one of those oddball years, kind of similar to what the Panthers experienced in 2016. They dealt with a lot of injuries to key players. We have dealt with a lot of injuries to key players. And they really just tried to overcompensate for some of those injuries, and they just could never overcome them. And they tried to overcome a lot of off-the-field issues, and they just couldn't do that as well. That doesn't change the talent on the field. That doesn't change the future for this team. And I think this team is still a playoff caliber talented roster when Tannehill comes back. It's just we have to clean up a couple things. And once we do that, I think this defense is going to be better next year because some of the younger players have a year under their belt. I think this offense is going to be better because they're going to have a better quarterback under center. And I think we're going to fix this guard issue. So I think this team is just going to be hopefully 100% improved going forward. And I guess that's a pretty optimistic way of looking at it. I guess you could look at it a different way. And if you guys want to, I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. Illumide says, "Hey, it's Magnus. After Jarvis's performance, do you think the Brass will still let him go? Also, who should we draft at quarterback of the draft and in what round? Lastly, what should we do with Parker?" That's a loaded question. I'm going to answer one of these. After Jarvis's performance, do you think the Brass will let him go? Still let him go? I have no idea, especially after the news story that we read earlier in the program. I don't know. It's very frustrating when, if it's true, if the source said that they could just replace him with a second round pick. Like I said, with this team's history and the way and some of the later round picks that we've drafted, good luck. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Fly Solo 28 says, "Two bad calls by the referees that cost us the game. The safety and the pass interference call on Thomas in the end zone. But it really does not matter. We're not going nowhere even if we made the playoffs. Matt Moore is literally a okay backup. Just put him in the third quarter every game. But if you start him well, just look at the Ravens game. So you're saying if you start him, it doesn't perform as well. I think the Ravens game was an isolated incident in terms of just like, I don't care who starts that game. I mean, our team as a whole did not play well. So our run defense was atrocious. Our short yardage defense was bad. Every kind of aspect of the defense was really bad. Offensively, we couldn't get the run game going, couldn't get the pass game going, couldn't get time for our quarterbacks to pass the football. People weren't getting open on a consistent basis. Too many penalties, all of that kind of stuff happened in that game. So it was more of a team loss than it was a quarterback single-handedly lost us that game. Weston says, do you think we'll require a running back in our upcoming offseason or stick with the Drake Williams backfield? I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think that's something that we have to prioritize for our team to improve. I think Drake and Williams are pretty dang good tandem, so it's not something that we have to go into this offseason thinking that is something that we have to fix. But I think Damian is going to be a free agent after this season, so that's going to be interesting whether he'll still be a Dolphin or not. The Dill Pickle says 6-game win streak seems like a stretch at this point, but it's doable. Do you think this team can turn around and crawl out of this 4-6 hole? If they stop the penalties and the self-inflicting mistakes that they cause, that seems to be the most consistent thing about this team, then yeah. If we don't hurt ourselves in most of these games, then we're going to put ourselves in a good chance we're going to put ourselves in good situations to win the game. If we just stop the stupid penalties that take off touchdowns, that take off big plays off the board, if we don't give teams extra opportunities, whether that be a late hit on the quarterback or we throw a pick, all of that kind of stuff, if we just don't do self-inflicting issue, like all these issues with the penalty, all of that kind of stuff, anything that hurts us as a football team, if we can get it out of our own way, which seems to be a stretch at this point this season, because like I said, seems to be one of the only things consistent about this team, then I think we'll be okay. I think we should be in a lot of those games. All of those games should be very, very competitive. Marcus Wright says, I divorced myself from the Miami Dolphins franchise, have lots of rare memorabilia to sell, so please let me know if you want any rare stuff from the glory years, 70s, and some more recent stuff. That's sucks if that's true. It's a part of being a fan. Some fan bases more than others, but again, it makes it that much more sweeter when victory does come your way and you do have a good season. Cypher says, what do you think about the officiating in this game? He says, I felt that they cost us the game with a few questionable calls and missing the obvious safety. Yeah, the safety was the worst call. Like, people, when the safety happened, people that live around me thought there was something wrong, like that something was happening, because I was so upset about the call. Like, it was clearly a safety, and it was a tremendous play by our D-line, and it was one of the worst calls ever that I've ever seen. So yeah, it was a terrible call. That was all the questions I could answer. I know I missed a lot of questions. You know, I was just about to answer Ronald's question, couldn't get to it. There was a lot of more questions to answer. I'm just going to add that onto the list for the next podcast. That way we have more questions to answer. So that's going to be it, guys. That has been your podcast for this week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.